Hello again, everyone. You're listening to another episode of Executive Platform's Blueprint podcast series. My name is Jeff Mix. I'm Executive Platform's Head of Content and Research. Today, we are going to explore how leading companies like BASF are enabling the green transformation of their customers and creating impact that extends beyond business needs. In this episode, we are focusing on BASF's ambitious initiatives to foster sustainability in the field of renewable raw materials. Joining us are Jordan Keller, the head of Renewable Carbon for North America, and Jessica Monserrate, the head of Sustainability for North America at BASF. Together, they will share insights on how BASF is driving sustainability, which role renewable carbon plays, the importance of mass balance in agriculture, and how all of these efforts can provide significant benefits to both customers and the environment. Before we get into the specifics, I want to offer our listeners a brief overview of BASF. With over 150 years of experience, BASF is a leading chemical company that combines economic success with environmental protection. With a workforce of 111,000 employees and operations in more than 90 countries, BASF runs over 230 production sites, including 6 Verbund sites. In the U.S. alone, it operates more than 100 production and R&D sites. The company offers a diverse portfolio of over 45,000 products across various industries like automotive, construction, home care, packaging, and agriculture, and reports a turnover of 68.9 billion euros in 2023. Importantly, BASF is committed to ambitious sustainability targets, including a 25% reduction in Scope 1 and 2 greenhouse gas emissions by 2030 and achieving net zero across all scopes by 2050. With that said, let's hear from our guests. Jordan, why don't we start with you? Could you introduce yourself and share your career path at BASF?
Sure, Jeff. Thanks so much for having me on the podcast today. So, my background is in chemical engineering, and I've been with BASF for just about 12 years. Over that time, I've held a variety of different technical and commercial roles across several industries, including LNG, petrochemicals, and chemical recycling. Over the past few years, I've had the opportunity to focus on sustainability and specifically renewable raw materials. So, in my role as head of renewable carbon for North America, I'm currently working on replacing fossil carbon with renewable carbon in our value chain. And my passion lies in making a positive impact for people and the planet.
Thanks, Jordan. And Jessica, could you share your journey at BASF?
Yes, happy to. And thank you again for having us on the podcast. So I am a research scientist by training. I did my PhD in genetics and cell biology. And I did my postdoc and entered into the workforce doing R&D. During that time, I had a chance to manage small teams as well as large teams. So I've been in a total of about 10 years in R&D, managing different sizes of team. At the end, I was basically responsible for all of the discovery, which meant our teams of scientists were looking for interesting genes and microbial assemblies to put into traits or look into uses of other types of biologicals or natural product chemistries. So while I was managing scientists and that kind of aspect, I also had the opportunity to work on some side gigs where we started up a company in the Israeli ecosystem with a bio-based insecticide. And up until about 2 years ago, I was working with some of our key accounts at BASF, looking for bio-based solutions for other chemical companies. So I guess what you could say a salient theme out of all of those roles is really that excitement over innovation that really have that bio-based footprint. And that led me into this role, head of sustainability, which I actually didn't actually apply for. I applied for a different role, but my boss said, "Hey, I think you would actually like this job better." And he was absolutely right. Something about sustainability is people who are truly passionate about what they do. It's amazing the fierceness that comes out of that drive, that desire. And if we pair that with a brand like BASF that has a huge amount of integrity and respect, I feel like we have the opportunity to really drive a lot of change.
Well, it's great to have you both here. Let's discuss BASF's sustainability target in more detail. Jordan, what are the key elements behind those targets, and how do they reflect BASF's commitment to sustainability?
So, Jeff, we have a very comprehensive set of sustainability targets that really reflect our commitment to addressing climate change and advancing a circular economy. So, key elements of these targets include the adoption of innovative technologies to reduce emissions from our own operations, things like heat pumps and e-furnaces, also investing heavily in renewable energy sources. So we know that a lot of these projects require electrification. So we need to have clean energy for these projects and also to help power our own emissions. The circular economy is another crucial aspect of the strategy. And this focuses on transforming raw materials into valuable products while minimizing waste and resource consumption. So, circular economy involves not only recycling, but also really rethinking our raw materials. And we want to incorporate more renewable and recycled feedstock in order to keep the fossil resources in the ground. So, as you mentioned in the beginning, we have ambitious goals about reducing scope 1 and 2 GHG emissions by 25% by 2030. And then we also have a goal to be net zero across all scopes by 2050. And these targets aren't just regulatory compliance. They're part of BASF's commitment to lead the industry towards a more sustainable future.
I focused on BASF's overall sustainability goals, but I know your agriculture business has their own specific ambitious goals. Jessica, can you expand on those?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as Jordan alluded to, BASF works in an energy intensive sector, and we have a lot of integrated value chains that require transformative measures to achieve that net zero goal. So, what we're really trying to make sure that we can accomplish here is setting up agriculture as not only a source of decarbonization for a multitude of these value chains, but also as a source of defossilization. So some of our global targets means that we will try our best to reduce our emissions by 30% of our row crops, as well as invest 7% annually in our sustainable solution towards agriculture. Now, more than ever, farmers will need to combine sustainability and yield. What does that mean? That means that they'll have to think through their agronomic practices to make sure that they are achieving those yields, but also recognizing that they have a fantastic opportunity with the environmental attributes, which is the carbon emissions that would be part of their reduction targets at their farm, and that could be now associated with the harvest so that the different value chains can benefit.
Jordan, you mentioned the circular economy. How important is that for BASF? And do you also have specific ambitions in that area?
We do. So, drop the circular economy is super important because it fundamentally shifts the way that we think about resource use and waste. So, instead of operating in a linear model, which is kind of how most of the world operates today, think about it as take, make, waste. We want to close the loop and maximize the life cycle of products and materials. So, this approach is not only about conserving resources, but also reducing emissions. And this aligns with our goals about minimizing waste and emissions. So, at BASF, we have a dedicated target for this. We're committed to doubling the sales of these so called loop solutions by 2030. So, loop solutions are products that close the loop in a variety of ways. So, it could be by being based on recycled or renewable feedstocks, or enabling recyclability and biodegradability, or extending the loop by performing better with less, thus helping to decouple growth from raw material consumption. So, with these loop products, we can help our customers reduce their carbon footprints and decrease the consumption of fossil raw materials. And we know that the shift towards a circular economy have clear environmental benefits, but it also opens up a lot of new business opportunities and enhances the resiliency of supply chain.
I'd like to talk about how BASF is linking its circular economy and sustainability goals and renewable carbon, which is an area that I know you're engaged in. Can you give us some background on that?
Sure. So, renewable raw materials, as regenerative bio-based feedstocks for chemicals, have enormous potential for reducing feedstock-related greenhouse gas emissions. So, why is this important? The phase out of fossil fuels is both urgent and necessary for combating climate change. So, we know that fossil fuels are a major source of all greenhouse gas emissions that significantly contribute to global warming. And as Jessica mentioned earlier, the chemical industry consumes a lot of fossil resources. And at BASF, we recognize that moving away from fossil is essential for reducing our own carbon footprint and mitigating environmental damage. So these renewable raw materials serve as an alternative to fossil-based feedstock. And BASF is dedicated to driving the growth of the bioeconomy by continuously exploring and developing different building blocks that can turn this ambition into a reality. So, by transitioning to renewable feedstocks, we're not only supporting our sustainability targets and those of our customers, but also responding to the clear demand from consumers and society. So, recent statistics from People's Climate Vote show that 72% of people favor a rapid transition away from fossil resources. And we like to think about this as defossilization.
You've used the term defossilization earlier, and you've been talking a lot about fossil-based feedstocks just now. Usually companies talk about decarbonization efforts. What's the difference?
Yeah, so this is one of my favorite topics. It's going to be a little bit technical, so just buckle up and bear with me for a second. But you're right. We always hear about decarbonization, and that's a popular term, and it's typically associated with the energy sector. So the energy sector can be decarbonized by switching to renewable energy sources and through electrification. It's very similar to how we are working to decarbonize our own assets in similar ways, like I mentioned earlier, with the heat pumps and the e furnaces and renewable energy. But we can never fully decarbonize chemicals because organic chemicals and materials can only be made from carbon. So think back to your high school chemistry class. Carbon is essential in all of these chemicals, so we have to have it. So the chemical industry needs carbon. And the question rather becomes, where do we get this carbon? Today, it's largely from fossil resources. But organic carbon is a fundamental building block of life, and it's present in a wide range of sources. So things like plants, microorganisms, agricultural residues, and it can be used to produce a diverse range of materials, things like plastic, fibers, chemicals, replacing those traditional carbon sources. So we can use renewable carbon to replace our typical fossil carbon feedstocks. And two of the biggest ones that we use in the chemical industry are naphtha and natural gas. Now, naphtha is a hydrocarbon mixture that's a main feedstock for steam crackers, and steam crackers produce olefins, which are the building blocks of many chemical value chains. So instead of using fossil naphtha, we can use bio naphtha that's coming from renewable sources like oil crops, lignocellulosic, other waste streams, starch, sugar crops, and it can be used as a drop-in replacement for these renewable cracker value chains. Additionally, we can use materials like biomethane, or what we call here in the US, renewable natural gas, both crop-based and waste-based. So think about sources like landfills or food waste digesters, wastewater. And this can be fed into our gasification assets that produce other building blocks like synthesis gas. So by using these renewable feedstocks in place of fossil feedstocks, we can produce products with a low product carbon footprint, or PCF, and help keep that fossil in the ground. Furthermore, these low PCF products help our customers achieve their sustainability targets, and that aligns with BASF's broader commitment to reducing emissions and enhancing sustainability across the entire value chain. And what's exciting is that our businesses are anticipating a significant increase in the demand for these low PCF, bio-based, bio-attributed products in the coming years. So our focus on renewable carbon positions us really well to meet that demand. And when it comes to sourcing these renewable raw materials, topics like environmental, social, economic factors also play a really important role and therefore impact the availability of these renewable raw materials in sufficient quantities. And it's super important for us to identify feedstock sources that are both sustainably cultivated and scalable so that we can ensure credible, reliable, and consistent supply. So I'm going to pivot to Jessica because she can better describe how agriculture can provide a significant value in reducing that carbon footprint by actually using soil as a mechanism to harbor carbon emissions.
Yes, I love this topic, and I love this topic because I have spent so much time in R&D, so I know what the potential is of our scientists, the academic field, and all of us really thinking about this opportunity where soil is important. So it's obviously soil health is important to farmers. Farmers know that. But really the society understanding what soil has the potential to offer for this global challenge is kind of an important deal. So at a high level, farming practices, we've known this for decades. If we incorporate what is mostly known as regenerative farming or sustainable agriculture or climate smart agriculture, it's basically incorporating no-till cover crops, things that really protect the soil. Now, what we're appreciating more and more is the amount of carbon stock that can actually reside in that soil. So it's actually remarkable that the amount of carbon that soil can harbor is up to the thousands of gigatons. It's hard to quantify, but it's a massive number worldwide. So, a nice way that I like to draw an analogy is if you just take a kilometer thick sliver of the atmosphere and you packed all of that CO2 into 2 meters deep of soil, you can actually capture 3 times more than what was in that original sliver of kilometer depth of CO2. That's a massive amount of carbon. And if that carbon is incorporated into soil organic carbon and kept in that soil stock below ground, that is important for nutrient availability for the roots, biodiversity below ground. It really, and when there is a relationship, I should say, between biodiversity below ground to biodiversity above ground. So if we just continue to nurture those soils, it builds water holding capacity so that extreme weather conditions can be weathered. Um, these are all a win-win-win for all. It's a win for the farmers, it's a win for the yield component, and it's a win for all of us as we're facing this climate challenge. So, what we're basically trying to achieve here is now incorporating the context of just North America agriculture. You have about 200 million plus of acres of soil that has these little sentinels on it that are constantly drawing up atmospheric carbon. However, during a traditional harvest, that carbon just goes back into the air. This is where I would love for all of us, not just BASF, all of us to understand the challenges. If we can just incorporate more of that carbon that's been sucked up by the crops and put into the ground through innovations. Interesting soil amendments have that potential, root health, root architecture. These are challenges that I know scientifically we can address to really keep more of that carbon in a soil organic carbon state. And that's how we hope to bring more of that net zero, or if not even negative component, where we're actually sequestering carbon for the long term into the final product of what that harvest will go to. So it could go into food, feed, fuel, and fiber clothing. So all of these products that are agricultural products could have a significant impact to our emission reduction goals.
That is fascinating. I have a lot of questions about that, but I do want to get back to Jordan, who mentioned, there are challenges that come with scaling up bio-based products. Maybe we can elaborate on those challenges and how BASF is addressing them.
So, first of all, for us at BSF, sustainable sourcing of these raw materials is more than just a commitment. And if we really want to improve the sustainability of our value chains and mitigate environmental and social risks, then we need to be sourcing certified renewables and engage in smallholder community projects. We source in line with all applicable responsible sourcing legislations, which is a key principle. We also focus on sourcing waste-based renewables. And in order to ensure a reliable supply, we're constantly looking for long-term partnerships with experienced suppliers. We're also working with customers and markets to help develop demand for products with these reduced KCFs. And in turn, this will help develop the supply capabilities of these renewable feedstocks in North America. Another thing that we're doing is focusing on leveraging our existing infrastructure by using mass balance as a chain of custody model. This is essential to ensure that our bioattributed products or biomass balanced products maintain the same quality and performance as their conventional counterparts. And this essentially involves carefully tracking the renewable raw materials throughout the production process to the final product, ensuring transparency, traceability, and adhering to a recognized certification system like Red Cert 2 and ISDC Plus. And by doing so, we can meet market standards while also providing value to our customers.
Let's discuss the concept of mass balance a bit deeper, Jordan. Can you explain what it is and why it is important for driving forward BASF's transformation?
Yeah, mass balance is a methodology that allows us to track and attribute the use of renewable raw materials within our production processes. So essentially, it works by mixing renewable feedstock, like the ones I mentioned earlier, bio-naphtha or renewable natural gas, with their conventional counterpart fossil feedstocks at the beginning of our production network. And throughout the production process, we meticulously track both the input and the outputs and ensure that the volume of the renewable feedstock used is accurately accounted for in the final product. But it's important to recognize that mass balance is already a very well established chain of custody model, and it's used in everyday products that we all know and love. So, two of my favorite products, coffee and chocolate, rely on mass balance in a lot of ways. So, for example, the coffee industry, brands often utilize mass balance to ensure that a certain percentage of their coffee is sourced sustainably or produced using fair and ethical labor, even if not every single bag of coffee that they sell is certified. Chocolate is also similar. So, manufacturers can mix some conventional cocoa with sustainably sourced or ethically produced cocoa and then use mass balance to claim a portion of their products being sustainably and ethically sourced. So, two certifications that I specifically look for when I'm shopping for chocolate and coffee are Rainforest Alliance and Fair Trade. And they both use mass balance. And this has been incredibly impactful in producing more of these coffee and cocoa products that are sustainably sourced and ethically produced. And so the importance of mass balance lies in its ability to facilitate this transition towards sustainable, or in our case, renewable materials without compromising that product quality. And it enables companies to gradually incorporate sustainable practices by leveraging their existing supply chains and assets. So that makes it quicker and easier for them to meet consumer demands for transparency and sustainability.
Mhm.
So for us at BASF, mass balance is really crucial for driving forward material transformation because it allows us to scale the use of these renewable raw materials while ensuring that we adhere to the high standards of quality and consistency on our products. And it helps us keep the fossil in the ground.
I keep saying expand upon it. I hope you'll forgive me. I want to expand upon that even a little bit further. I do a lot of episodes that are relevant to our supply chain and manufacturing executives in our network. And so often they talk about, it is their responsibility to track these metrics because it flows through their organizations. They need to be accountable. They need to document what is happening. And it sounds like this mass balance is going to be a new dimension for what they're doing and a new opportunity to show that they are doing impactful work. And I can appreciate maybe that conversation is still ongoing, but maybe we could talk just a little bit about that now. And it might also be an opportunity to do a follow-up episode further down the road when some of these things are more concrete. Whichever of you would be interested in expanding upon that just a little, I'd really appreciate it.
Yeah, I can take this one. So, I mean, just like you said, right? It's the opportunity about creating an impact and integrating different supply chains. Um, with mass balance, it's both flexible but also credible. There's third party certifications. And so, if we could harmonize this chain of custody across various supply chains and industries, we could essentially create an entire value chain using mass balance that could really maximize the impact.
Agreed.
I have to say that's maybe the best explanation of mass balance I've heard. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Thank you. Um, why is having identical qualities and performance important to your customers?
Yeah, this is extremely important to our customers because having identical qualities and performance provides consistency, provides reliability, and compatibility. It allows our customers to have confidence in the product's performance and functionality. So, a mass balance product can be used in the exact same way as a conventional product. This means that our customers don't have to do any sort of modifications or adaptations. They don't have to requalify the product. They don't need to make any equipment adjustments. So it's a quick and easy drop-in solution. And this offers our customers the opportunity to make sustainable choices without sacrificing performance or quality. So it enables them to meet their own sustainability goals and contribute to a circular economy.
Well, let's go to Jessica. Do you have similar needs for mass balance in driving sustainable transformation in agriculture?
Yes, absolutely. And I was listening to Jordan explain it very well. The truth is we're all in transformation mode, and we all need to push in the direction. And we're telling you that BASF wants to achieve circular business models or circularity. Uh, we are You can't just flip a switch across all industries and get to that giant goalpost. That's a significant challenge. We want to use the current infrastructure, not disrupt too much of what's going on so that people can participate. Because at some point, it's too cost prohibitive for folks to participate if there is a need to have massive, let's say, for example, identity preservation, which means that 2 pounds of renewable grain will end up in a jet engine exactly in the same format, from end to end. So because that's so unrealistic and too costly, what mass balance from farm to crush to elevator to all of these different spots along the lines require blending. But that's not saying that we're not carrying the environmental attributes as it's being blended. So that's the important part. When you're doing all of these activities, the integrity is key and foundational, because at the output, no one wants to suffer greenwashing claims or concerns of it's not exactly what you said it was. That's not what we're investing. It's too much money for us to take that risk. So the accounting has to be of the highest amount of integrity so that we know as it's going through the system, the current infrastructure, at the end, where those environmental attributes lie and who is the receiver or the benefactor of those environmental attributes, because that's what's the new commodity, right? The carbon that's being traded, the environmental attributes can eventually be biodiversity impacts, water quality. Right now, we talk about carbon because that's the carbon economy is the one that's slightly more fleshed out than a general environmental impact score. So if we can get the carbon economy right, we can incorporate other important environmental attributes that we all want to place a financial value for, like biodiversity, like clean waters, and etc.
And I think oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, can I just jump in real quick?
Yeah.
Please.
Um, yeah, one thing I think a nice way to summarize mass balance is not about content, it's about impact. And I think hopefully through this podcast, you're able to appreciate that Jessica and I are both incredibly committed to making as big of a positive impact as possible.
Well, I think that comes through loud and clear, and thank you both for sharing so much of this. I do want to talk about the economic realities behind sustainability because I think it's an important conversation to have. And one of the things that excites me so much about what you're sharing here is that BASF is inventing these products to address their own sustainability needs and goals. But of course, what they're creating is also going to help others. So I wonder if maybe Jordan, you could talk a little bit more about maybe the offerings that you are coming up with in renewable carbon and sustainable practices that can help other companies.
Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, other companies can significantly benefit from BSF's sustainability offering by integrating products with attributed renewable raw materials into their supply chain. So, we call these biomass balanced products. And this really generates significant efficiency. So, like I mentioned before, they're easy drop in replacement. These products are certified according to independent sustainability schemes, which offers transparency and credibility. So at BASF, by applying our own scope 1 and 2 reduction measures to our production processes, This enables us to produce low PCF products for our customers. And then by additionally replacing the fossil feedstock with renewable and using the mass balance chain of custody, we can even offer zero PCF products. So, how is this possible, you may ask? This is really due to the biogenic uptake from these renewable raw materials, which essentially absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere through photosynthesis. And this carbon is stored in the biomass of the organism. And when renewable raw materials are used as feedstock in the production of new products, the carbon that's emitted at the product's end of life, so for example, via incineration, is essentially that same carbon that was previously absorbed by the plant from the atmosphere. So circular carbon, unlike fossil carbon, therefore does not release any additional emissions at the end of life. And this circularity aspect helps our customers to improve their own sustainability credentials and appeal to a growing base of environmentally conscious consumers. And so today, we can already offer over 1,500 biomass balance or BMB products from more than 40 certified locations in Europe, Asia, and North America. And these products can be used in many different industries and applications. So some specific examples of these products. So together with Henkel, we've committed to replacing fossil carbon feedstock with renewable feedstock for most BASF products that are used in Henkel's European laundry and home care, as well as beauty care portfolio. We've also collaborated with Nili, one of the leading global producers of polyamide 6,6, to enhance sustainability in the textile industry. Additionally, Siemens uses Ultramode BMB in the production process of circuit breakers for use in demanding industrial applications. So, in a nutshell, BMB offers sustainability without compromising quality. And the last thing I'll mention here is really the vast opportunity that we have to make an impact. So, if we look at everything around us, most of these products are produced using fossil resources. And now this realization can be a bit daunting, but I actually see this as an opportunity because by using biomass balance, we can incorporate renewable raw materials into the production of these everyday products that we know and love, products we're using every day. And isn't it amazing to think that nearly every item we purchase could actually contribute to reducing emissions, accelerating a circular economy, and keeping the fossil in the ground?
Jessica, did you want to add something?
Well, I think I think is what we're thinking about in agricultural solutions is how we can connect more. So Jordan sits in a place of the organization where the key accounts are a little bit different than how in agricultural solutions our key accounts are set up. But now with the two businesses coming together and really kind of providing that farm or raw based materials from the source and carrying it throughout these different industries that need decarbonization because they're the hard to abate sectors. This is what we're realizing is the competitive advantage of BASF. You have passionate individuals who are just wanting to solve problems and make this part of our everyday of doing business. This is what our product does. This is the value of our product. And while we made this product, we were able to sequester X amount of carbon. We are able to help connect across vastly different industries to achieve that. And this is why I'm super excited to have had Jordan join me on this podcast, because I think it really tells that holistic picture of what we want to do as BASF.
I really think it does. Thank you both for your insights. It's clear that BASF is actively addressing sustainability challenges and also providing valuable solutions to customers looking to enhance their own sustainability efforts. Before I let you go, I do want to talk a little bit more about that passion. One of my favorite things about the sustainability space is that people come into it for all the right reasons. And I wonder if maybe we can take a moment and talk about what motivates you in your current roles and how do you envision making a positive impact through your work at BASF?
I'm happy to go first. What motivates me is not knowing what kind of experts I can find at BASF and then finding them and then saying, oh my goodness, we need to do something about this. Let's connect. Let's do this. Um, so well, for me, I always, when I was a little girl, I thought I was going to work for the EPA. And I went my whole academic career to try to find my way into the EPA. And then I'm in industry. So that's quite different than the EPA. But it's still it's still refreshing. And especially in today's day and age, corporate commitments have to have a long-term view. Corporates who are thinking about that 10, 20-year horizon, they should be concerned and they should be thinking about how they're going to evolve relevant and important on that horizon. So I love being a part of BASF who has it part of like that fabric of their being saying, we want our 20-year trajectory. We want to be relevant to whatever is going on in that outside world. So let's just go in that direction. And I love having the opportunity to meet companies that are similar and ready to just invest in that direction. So realizing that every day it's exhausting, geopolitical changes and policy changes, changes in government, and all of that can happen. But a corporate who really sets their long-term view and has partners that are like-minded, we can achieve a lot. So that gives me comfort at night.
What about you, Jordan?
Yeah, so my motivation really comes from my inherent desire to make a positive impact. And I'm excited about the opportunity to drive meaningful change within the chemical industry, the industry that is one of the largest consumers of fossil resources and generates a significant amount of emissions. But small changes at the scale in which we operate create huge impact. So, working on these solutions, it's not only reducing emissions, but it's supporting our customers and their sustainability journey, which is incredibly rewarding to me. And I truly believe that by advancing renewable carbon initiatives like we talked about today, we can make a substantial impact not only on the chemical industry, but on the world.
What a great note to end on. Just before I let you go, I want to let listeners know we hope both to do a follow up episode in a few months with some exciting updates from BASF on this. And I also want to say Jessica will be a member of the speaker faculty of the North American Sustainability and Responsibility Summit this March in Denver. So stay tuned for more information on both that future episode and the summit. In the meantime, Jessica, Jordan, thank you so much for your time today. This has been terrific, and I am so excited to hear more about the good work BASF is doing.
Thank you so much, Jeff. I appreciate your time and your commitment to hanging out with us and learning more about BASF. I also look forward to the conference. I hope to speak to many of those folks who are thinking like us and wanting to move in the direction that we are.
Thanks again, Jeff, for the opportunity to be on your podcast today. It's been such a pleasure talking to you and look forward to making an impact together with all of you listening.
Well, the pleasure has been mine. It really is one of the joys of this job that I get to speak to people like you. For everyone who has been listening, this has been another episode of Executive Platform's Blueprint podcast series. I've been Jeff Mix. Let's do it again soon.